Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another DADCAW. It is 11:08 in the evening of Saturday, the 2nd of May, 2020. And this DADCAW is actually significant for a few reasons. I want to talk about a few things. First off, trying to be a little bit more future-proof with the way that I communicate. I oftentimes find myself saying, oh, look out for this piece of content in tomorrow or in the future or stay tuned or whatever. And when you're dealing with shit that's supposed to be a little bit more like ahistoric in that sense, where it doesn't need to fit into a specific time period. And obviously, like most people who listen to this, well, at least a significant portion of the listens are going to be after, you know, a day or two away. So I'm going to just try to avoid saying shit like that. It is a little bit funny to segue completely from that into the new topic, which is, or the next topic, I should say, which is the fact that tomorrow, the 3rd of May, 2020, will mark half a year of daily mod streams. I did the math a while ago, so that means that tomorrow I am officially half a year mod man, and we're halfway there to a full year. So I hope you will join us in celebrating that milestone, and join me, I should say, in celebrating that milestone. And also, of course, you know, carry on through until we finish that year, that calendar year out. So our eyes are set on the 3rd of November, I believe. So yeah, there you go. So 3, of course, has to be 3. Why would it be anything else? And yeah, I mean, those are the two main sort of announcements. One, future-proofing my content. The other one, hey, by the way, tomorrow something is very, very monumental and momentous. But what does it actually mean that I've been able to do all of this work for literally half a year now? Well, in some measurements, half a year is not really that significant. And in other measurements, it's crazy to think that for literally half a year's worth of days, I've been, you know, streaming for at least like 2 hours, usually much longer than that. Getting a lot of work done on various projects, some of which may never see the light of day as they were just experiments to sharpen my skills, some of which will eventually, hopefully, see the light of day, like Hydra and Inconsummate and so on and so forth. And of course, plenty of map crafts that were actually just there to sharpen my skills, and also saw a public release of a sort, as public as you can call mapcraft VODs, and the links that lie within. That being said, I do feel like there is something to take away from this. The fact is that I definitely feel like if you take me half a year ago, back when I was finishing up some stuff related to Stormborn, and you look at me now, I have made some significant strides. But I think that ignoring the actual calendar year streak, if you just look at the fact that I've been steadily mod streaming for over a year, well over a year now, where, you know, not too many days goes by between them, and obviously now no days have gone by between them in half a year, we're now looking at a situation where we have definitely grown as a creator. You know, I've definitely grown as a creator, but we've also grown as a community where people who, you know, have been regulars for a long time. It's crazy to think it's been that long. Like, you know, I think I met Veek like a year and a half ago now. I think I met, you know, Ultralisks around a year ago now. Like the people who are, obviously I'm just like throwing some random names out there that are occurring to me. Like DF, I think I met him in like 2016 or something, 2017. So it was a while ago. I think that was like, that might've been before Inconsummate actually. So I'm pretty sure it was because he did icons for that. So yeah. To think that I met him in like 2016, 2017, and it's already 2020. Like I met iQuare and really started talking with him about like collaborations and stuff back in like, I guess that was like late 2017, early 2018, if I had to guess, just blindly guessing here. There's a lot that has happened in the since I've really started taking this stuff a lot more seriously, and not just in the like words only where I say, oh yeah, I'm definitely taking it seriously, but actually taking it seriously, actually working to improve my craft. And I think that the next topic, and probably the last topic that we'll really get to and cover in this particular DADCAW, is going to really sum this up nicely, because today, on the 2nd of May, I made my very first Melee map in over a decade now. Not that any of the older ones were good. Don't go looking them up. Don't post my baby pictures, raw flesh. Let me tell you, those ones were some bad maps, but I don't even really count them as like stepping stones, really. I just sort of like trivia. Like, yeah, 10 years ago or so, I made some Melee maps that were pretty bad, and then I never made any more. And yeah, this is the first Melee map I've made in something like 10 years. And the first take was pretty bad as well. probably better than the ones that I made 10 years ago, just by virtue of me making all those campaign maps, but certainly needed more work. And then I put in the work later on after the Fraud Night, and I think we got a much more exciting map on our hands. I'm actually very excited to get back into playing that map with some people. And I'm even more excited to continue learning how to handle melee maps and conceptualize them and break other melee maps down and analyze them. And Alexander has recently been interested in making some melee maps, and I hope other people will also be interested in making some melee maps, just so that we can have that as an aspect of our repertoire as a community, our toolbox, if you will. Like, yeah, we can make melee maps, and we can ship them along with our mods to play outside of a campaign context. And, you know, maybe we won't include a campaign at all. Maybe it actually will be like in a world where I wasn't so invested in the idea of releasing a Hydra campaign series, where I was remastering and revamping and, you know, reduxing and whatever else, special edition, the existing first 3 campaigns for the vanilla game. In a world where I wasn't doing that, I might even consider just having some melee maps that I put together using the custom tile sets out of Hydra, really explore that area of time, and then, you know, release it as a mod. Now, obviously, you need AI support, and it's not really a total conversion either, although it's probably got more significant changes to it than most mods have ever. And it's meant to just be like an accompaniment to a campaign is what it was originally meant to be. Now it's really is meant to be like a new version of StarCraft that you can play. But it's very interesting to look at that and say, like, well, here's how far I've come, and this is actually an option. And if people don't really feel like making campaigns, but they do feel like making melee maps, and they also feel like modifying StarCraft to some extent with their own custom tech trees or their own ideas, you know, UD Commander with the Primal Zerg and whatever else he's got going on, and that's stuff that he's been, you know, showing him his own interest in, and he wants to come up with stuff like that and the UED and a bunch of other stuff, keeping true to his namesake, of course. And obviously, I've had ideas for custom tech trees for, you know, years and years now. And I would like to do stuff like that too. Like Toddborn may end up being one of those things where you just end up having like melee maps, because I'm reusing the Hydra tile sets for other things. We end up having melee maps built around with the Hydra tile sets that I'm trying to make sure that are, you know, maintain them as up to date as possible so that they're open source for other people. Stuff like that is a big deal. And I think that as a community, we can come together and make some melee maps in addition to the campaign maps and the map craps that we've been doing. And that can be one way that we show, like, just in general, a pretty nice understanding of how that shit is supposed to be constructed in the first place. Am I saying that we're going to revamp a lot of stuff and make better maps than those crazy Koreans and other foreigners that have, well, I mean foreigners as in non-Koreans in that sense, but those people out there, unlike the Team Liquid mapping contest and all those other people who make maps that are played in the ladder. I mean, for one, we wouldn't even be able to get our maps in there because we're using custom tiles for 161. So it's a pipe dream anyway. But for another, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we're going to become literally the best melee mappers ever. But I think that leveling up our understanding of that, even if we don't end up making too much of that content, would be a good move. And it would allow us to have a more complete understanding of the game of StarCraft and of RTS production and of like the elements that go into an RTS in that sense. So I, for one, am looking forward to playing other people's melee maps and, of course, to making some more. In fact, I'm actually more excited to make more melee maps than I am to continuously refine the one that I've got right now. And I guess that's a good sign. You know, it's kind of like how it was when I was doing AI or whatever. I didn't really feel like refining existing AI. And that's kind of a hallmark of my learning process is like, I would rather just, you know, do something else new. Why bother messing around with refining existing stuff until it's as good as it can be when I should just probably scrap it and start over anyway? Well, I think there's some learning process that you end up getting. And because melee maps don't take nearly as much time to put together as campaign maps, because of the fact that you don't have to worry about writing, you know, map specific AI and, you know, doing all that other stuff, you actually can get a pretty quick turnaround where you get a version and maybe it doesn't have all the decor and maybe it's not great in that sense. And maybe it's certainly not going to be final, but you can do a version and then test it. And even if it's just against like the default enemy AI, ideally with somebody else from the server that can help you test that. And you can get some feedback in that sense. And that can be very enticing in that sense. It can be very exciting to learn that quickly. And that's what I've found. It's like I'm actually learning very quickly how to grasp melee map concepts. And I hope that I become pretty well versed in those, because obviously I want to make melee maps in the future for my own RTS and also just in general for StarCraft. So it makes sense to put together some stuff that we can play for Fraud Night. Do I think that the melee map that I've got right now, Isolation Tank, Do I think that map is going to be still played in circulation half a year from now, or even a couple months from now? No, I don't think that. But I do think that it's a very high likelihood that I end up getting a lot of progress learning from all of these early draft Melee maps that I'm putting together, like this one and the ones that I plan on doing later on this week and in the coming months. I think that there's a lot that I can learn from general map design, and I think a lot of that will bleed over into the design of campaign missions and maps that are not symmetrical whatsoever, but are still meant for Melee gameplay, like what Consecrate was, which is, if you're unfamiliar, the full circle fraud circle map that I put together for that team map crap that happened very recently. That sort of thing is very important to keep track of. And it's important to keep track of like where your influences are, where your inspirations are. And right now I'm very inspired, very motivated to continue exploring this area and trying to mine it for as much utility as I can to then use that to improve my own map making process when it comes to campaigns, which is still where I'm committed to, because I still want to produce like single player and co-op content that ends up being very good. But I also know that it's undeniable that the latest tests of Hydra PvP, like player versus player, have been pretty fun as well, in a way that I had not expected when we first sat down to talk about all this stuff. 4 DADCAWs ago, I started talking about Hydra multiplayer. I did a whole series of 3. And I really talked about a lot of that stuff and how it was a surprise, but it was a welcome surprise. It was one that I felt like I really learned a lot from. And in this case, I'm doing that again with Melee maps now. In this case, for the express purpose of learning how to experience, how to design Melee maps, and also for the express purpose of playing them with Hydra, the Hydra New Game State. So it's pretty exciting stuff. And I am definitely invested in continuing to master that. I guess sort of parting words on a separate topic is that I will be diving headfirst into assembly as well, since I'm waiting on changes to the AI and a bunch of other things, as well as extensions to the data files, before I can comfortably continue to work on either the mod of Hydra or the maps of Hydra or in Consummate. I am definitely going to be working on not only the Melee maps and not only maybe some graphic conversions or whatever from other games, but I'm also going to be working on some pretty significant changes to, well, just learning assembly, but I'm going to try to make some significant headway in that so that I can help iQuire make those very significant and very time-consuming changes to the editor, or to the engine rather, in a function that I couldn't help with before. And my current idea is that I'll translate all of the functions he needs into pseudocode, and as long as my pseudocode is correct, which, again, there's going to be some learning process there. As long as my pseudocode is correct, he can translate my pseudocode into actual, either C++ or Rust, depending on which plugin he's writing it into. And hopefully that results in an easier time to implement the features I need, to implement the features that he needs. And also, I hope that I will just learn new skills and be able to master that in some capacity so that I can actually be of a service in a factor or an environment where I really wasn't. Like, I was never really that useful in the coding department for Veek with the Python changes, for iQuire with any of the changes, be it like actual plugin changes or reverse engineering. I hope that at least by picking up this reverse engineering thing, I'm able to be of use, and so that he's not shouldering most of that on his own, as occasionally he will get help from Nave and maybe Farty and Voyager or whatever, but he's pretty much on his own most of the time. And so hopefully I can bridge that gap a little bit and we can not have to worry about that. And then when we have to deal with the inevitable insane number of the learning curves and the pitfalls and the hidden trapdoors that you fall down into and die, when we have to deal with all that as we learn how to actually use our brain with regards to assembly, after we get through that learning curve, I hope that I'm able to be of assistance. That's my goal. So that'll be another thing to watch for this week. Obviously I have a channel map coming in the next few days. Hopefully I'll have time for it very soon. But aside from that, and that's pretty much it. So my current agenda is to continue working on Melee maps, continue developing my skills, and that's sort of what this DADCAW is. It's a crystallization of my thought process in that respect. And so you can sort of use this as a time capsule to think like, oh, well, on this particular day, how was Pronogo feeling about this? Well, this is where we're at in general. Half a year into this streak, let's keep it going, and let's continue getting some fucking work done. Thank you very much, and mwah.